Welcome back to the 411 I'm Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Blake Lovell. With me once again, Steve Cook. And this is, I guess for this year, our final retro SummerSlam review as we head into SummerSlam 2021, which will take place on Saturday, of course. And we've already went through a couple different SummerSlams leading up to this. We started with 2013. We went to 1995, and now we will wrap up here before SummerSlam 2021 with SummerSlam 2000. And Steve, as we joked about on the last episode, SummerSlam 1995 was probably a show not a lot of people are going to go back and watch, aside from the ladder match with Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon. However, on SummerSlam 2000, there's actually some stuff you can go back and watch and feel pretty good about it. There's probably several choices here, a couple in particular that we'll get to here in a second.
Well, we're right in the middle of the Attitude Era here, and it's interesting because we all remember 1998 and 1999 as being heavy on the Attitude, pretty heavy on the drama and the backstage shenanigans and whatnot. And 2000 is kind of remembered as the year where they kind of had the best in-ring stuff going on, because you had Chris Jericho emerging, you had the Radicals coming over from WCW, you had like all these people kind of stepping into place, and Edge, Christian, Dudley's, Hardys. It was kind of a crazy collection of talents getting together here, putting on heck of shows that apparently put everybody else out of business because by the time 2001 rolls around, all their competition's gone. So apparently, I guess that's what happened, right? I guess I'm sure that somebody would tell me that everybody would run away because WWE just kicked too much ass.
Well,
so what they say I forgot what they said on Monday Night War.
I think that is what they say, right?
They kick so much ass.
Yes, that is the case. So,
but this is a darn good show, though. So I mean, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on, and we'll delve into some things. And there's also some stuff that went on that was like, well, okay, whatever.
It was a mixed bag, but I mean, I think you're getting more good than bad probably on the show. I think because the good parts of it get a lot more time, I think that always factors
That's true.
in.
You're going back to watch the TLC match or the main event. You're not going back to watch the opener.
Yeah, and again, at least they get more time. So that, I think you can rate it much higher based on that. That's what I always look at. Like if you're trying to rate a show properly, it's yes, maybe, let's say 5 of the 8 matches or something if you have on a particular show are terrible, but they all go 6 or 7 minutes, and then, your 3 big matches are great, and they all go 20 minutes or something. Like, it's hard to have which again, it's all subjective, but that's the way I look at it. And I think overall, you're getting a lot more good than bad on this in terms of your time investment. But this is SummerSlam 2000. It is held at the Raleigh, North Carolina. It's at the arena there in Raleigh, and the attendance, pretty nice little attendance here. I think, Steve, I've seen a couple different numbers for this. I want to say it was over 17,000. It may have been close to 18,000.
Well, I've got the notes right here from Uncle Dave, so I can tell you right now.
What's Uncle Dave got?
At least reported back on September 4th, 2000. They sold out the Raleigh, North Carolina Entertainment and Sports Complex, which probably has a different name by now, to the tune of 17,002 in the building, which was 15,603 paying, $1,151,940, as well as another $147,815 in merchandise. The 7th largest highest live gate in the history of American pro wrestling, and the first $1 million gate for an event other than WrestleMania.
How about that?
So that's some good business in Raleigh.
Yeah, Raleigh, as we know, never shied away from wrestling, and especially now given where they were, as you just mentioned, in 2000 at this point, pretty incredible to think about the state of things then. And as we know, as we head into 2001, there would be a lot more in terms of what they would do for, of course, WrestleMania, the invasion, all those other things, and then after that, as we always say, that's where things start to sort of turn a little bit in terms of maybe them not taking advantage of some of the things they could have. But this is indeed SummerSlam 2000, and what better way to kick off than the video packages? As always, I think this was just that era where you always expected a really nice video package to get you hyped up for everything. And that was no different here. So I don't know why I think we said this before, but I don't think they realized just how much easy it could be just to do something like this. If it's 1 minute, just have something video-wise to really hype things up. Today's, when they do this, they do it, I mean, like, this doesn't feel like anything. Like, it's just, but I guess I understand, because, they're probably booking at times before, while the show's going on. So maybe they don't know everything they need to hype up. So, but I just love.
You also had the involvement of Classy Freddie Blassie here.
Yeah, like he was great. Like he always he did like some of the Armageddon ones, I think, too, that one year, Royal Rumble maybe. Yeah. He was great on these. So that was it, and then we go into the show, which starts with a 6-man tag, as you have Too Cool and Rikishi taking on Right to Censor.
Yeah. Steven Richards and Bull Buchanan and the Good Father.
Yes.
Not the Godfather, the Good Father.
Last week we talked about the Good Father as Kama,
yes.
And now we talk about him as the Good Father.
Which is towards the bottom of his gimmicks, let's be honest.
Yes, I think we did rank them last week when we went through the Godfather, Kama, Papa Shango, and I think the Good Father is going to be at the very bottom of that list. So
yeah. Even below the Soul Taker.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I don't think that was one very memorable. But this was sort of the best way to put it. Just I think in this era, so we saw Too Cool and Rikishi a lot in some of the openers. I think from what I can remember, like in this era, because the crowd was hot for them. And I think, that was always something it felt like was a very sort of focused and dedicated move to put them there, knowing that it would get the crowd into it pretty early. And you kind of got that here going up against the Right to Censor group that, I mean, this, you talk about groups, we always say about tweeners and all this other stuff. And, even the heels get cheered, but I don't know anyone that was cheering the Right to Censor, unless I'm just completely wrong on that. I think this was one of those groups that everyone just hated, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing because they were supposed to be hated, but just the entrance music, everything. This was an interesting match, but I think again it just made sense to always put Too Cool and Rikishi in this spot because the crowd was into these guys. So.
Well, I'm not saying that we liked the Right to Censor, but I will say that a video me and some friends did for one of our, back in the day used to do videos in class, and
yeah.
It's mostly just an excuse for us to goof off and beat each other up. And we did a video where it was about Beowulf, and somehow it included the Right to Censor, which is us dressed up in, white shirts and ties and whatnot, just beating people up. So it was fun to do that, but, it's not like we were cheering for him or anything. Although I will say Steven Richards was right in that the Bible Belt should support the Right to Censor. I mean, if you're going to be thumping your Bible, you should be behind these guys, right? You should be against the Attitude Era. You should be against the hose if you're going to be thumping that Bible and saying your prayers. So I don't know about all that. And also notable, the appearance here of Victoria as one of the hoes that came down to Rikishi. And poor Victoria and the other hoe, whose name I don't recall, got beat up a little bit by the Good Father, which leads me to wonder what kind of Good Father is out there beating up women. I don't understand that either. But, man, the crowd was excited for this match. Like you said, Rikishi, very popular at the time. And he had some big butt splashes. Unfortunately, they cut off the WORM spot, which is always a top-notch thing there. And I'm trying to remember how long after this it was that poor old Rikishi went from being this over guy and Too Cool, always getting cheers, to being a bad man who ran over Stone Cold Steve Austin that nobody cared about. That is pretty soon after this, wasn't it? Poor Rikishi he was one of the most popular guys, getting all his merchandise sold and whatnot. And man, that poor bastard.
Yeah.
He went from, making all kinds of money out to, that poor guy. I feel bad for him.
No, the people loved him. I mean, that was evident here, and
they turned him for nothing.
Yeah, that was a very short-sighted move, I think, when you talk about. I mean, look, you saw like merch too. I'm sure. Of course, I don't know the numbers, but I'm sure they were moving merch pretty well. Too Cool and Rikishi.
He's still popular now, but yeah. I think he would have had a few more. He would have a longer run there, making that money, and I think he'd probably still be more popular today.
It's yeah, I mean, I think it was just an interesting group, and as we always say, like, it's how do you get over with the fans, right? Well, they didn't get over here because, they did with the fans, but they didn't in terms of the wins, as it was Right to Censor winning this match to, further the hatred towards them, I guess, for this one. So that was the opener, and then we get Kurt Angle arriving, and Stephanie, of course, we see all this, which, as we know, we'll get to in the main event. This is the big setup for everything going on with Angle and Stephanie and everything that's going to lead to these shenanigans.
And there's a lot of this going on the whole show, by the way.
Yeah, there's a lot happening here that we will talk quite a bit about. And then we've got the continued stuff with Shane and Blackman, and that's going to lead into their match here in a bit. But that will take us to the second match, which was X-Pac versus Road Dogg, and another one where the X members clashing in 2000. And I just thought this was, look, let's point this out too. The opener was, I think, about 5 minutes. This one was close to 5 minutes, pretty short. But overall, this just kind of felt like it was there, and there wasn't a lot to take away from this for me.
No, there wasn't. It was totally a match that was there, is a phrase I like to use, but there just was not a lot going on here. And honestly, in 2000, at this point, I was not really a fan of either of these guys. They both kind of worn out their welcome to me anyway. And it didn't help that you had like JR and King trying to put them over on commentary as the greatest tag team in WWF history. Which, X-Pac's not even Road Dogg's best tag team partner. And I'm sure we could think real quick and think of a better tag team partner for X-Pac than Road Dogg, right?
Probably.
It's got to be somebody.
Kane.
Bob Holly.
Kane, right? Like the name of Kane. Weren't they a
Sparky
team at
Plug.
one point? Anyone.
Marty Jannetty.
Marty Jannetty.
Marty Jannetty. They won a tag team title. But man, that's just kind of grinded my gears. What can I say? But it was cute because X-Pac decides to hit the low blow and puts Road Dogg out at the X Factor. And, afterwards, X-Pac wants to still be friends. But, wow, Road Dogg got a little hot because X-Pac hit him in the balls. What's up with that?
Yeah. That'll do it. So...
and I don't remember this led to anything or not. I don't remember.
I forgot before even rewatching this. I forgot this match was even on.
I'm pretty sure they're all friends again at some point anyway. So
yeah,
they at least got inducted in the Hall of Fame.
I completely forgot about this. So this was a very forgettable. Like I said, I think I'm looking at the time here. 4 minutes 31 seconds is what it's listed as. It was a very forgettable match, and
right after that, I want to point this out real quick. There was a plug for a restaurant. Jim Ross is talking big about this Venis Steakhouse and Tavern. A rare local commercial on the pay-per-view, which as I look in Meltzer's notes here, actually, it's a restaurant that is named after Vince McMahon. He was involved in the original financing of the place, apparently. So there you go. And apparently, it's still in business. It got 4.5 stars via Yelp or whatever site I looked up. So apparently, it's a pretty good. So if you're out in Raleigh, check it out. I asked Jeremy Lambert if he went there, and he never responded to me. So I don't know if that. Jeremy gets a lot of text these days. So I don't know, but
he's got all kinds of stuff going on over at Fightful. He's got the distraction. He's a busy man. So
when he's not eating at Vinny's Steakhouse and Tavern,
maybe we'll get him on sometime to get him back on here because I know he was on here, of course.
That's gonna be this could cost some money.
Well, it could.
We're gonna have to get Matt Hardy to help us out on that.
I don't know. CM Punk coming back. I don't know how much that costs, but we may have to up that to get him on here to get Jeremy back. So we'll see.
We could probably get Val Venis out of the foursome with Eddie Guerrero and Chyna, and then Trish Stratus and Val Venis. We'd probably get Val. I'm not sure I want to talk to Val. So
I haven't heard Val in an interview in a while.
It seems like I'd like to talk to Trish. If we get her on, that'd be good.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. You can pull some strings there and see what you can do. Speaking of all of that group, we get the lead into this next match, which is basically just Eddie and Chyna, which were just, as we know, just quite a pair at this point in time, and just them playing off of each other I thought was just always a lot of fun. And that leads us into the match here, which is going to be for the Intercontinental Championship. It's going to be a tag team match, which is Val Venis and Trish taking on Eddie and Chyna. What do you think of these? WWE's done this a lot. The old intergender tag team match with the singles belt on the line.
Not really a fan of having the singles title on the line in a tag team match. And I was not a really fan of Chyna as Intercontinental Champion anyway. Back in the day, it just, I don't know, I guess I wasn't quite as open to things as I am nowadays, where I'm like, okay, yeah, have a man be a champion, have a woman to be a champion, whatever. But back in the day, not really my cup of tea. But with Eddie and Val involved, it's a pretty good match. I thought it was I thought it was interesting how Val Venus, of all people, is not interested in Trish Stratus. Like, he was all focused on the Intercontinental Championship, and Trish just standing there, and Val was just not having any of it.
Like, his
Which, I
gimmick
mean,
was made for that, right?
it was. He was taking things super seriously at this point for some reason. Of course, that led to him joining that right to Censor group later on, I guess. But so yeah, I was not really a fan of the title line in the tag team match. Intergender stuff, also, that's one of those things where some people really like it and some people really don't, and sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's kind of creepy. At least, you had some good workers here. Trish was not exactly, this Trish was just breaking in at this point. I don't think she'd had more than a few matches, and she did not do much of anything this match, which is probably for the best.
Yeah, this was very early. Yeah, very early in the. She was certainly nowhere near what she would become in terms of her in-ring stuff.
I thought Chyna did a good job too. I thought Chyna was pretty good in this.
Yeah, well, as you said, I mean, she's the new Intercontinental Champion. So, poor Val.
The old Gorilla Press Slam for the 3 count, which is I don't know if I'd ever seen that win match. Maybe the Ultimate Warrior.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
Jobbers, I don't know.
I think that's the only one I could have thought of would be the.
Yeah, Chyna wins the match, and Eddie seems happy about it. And he wraps it around Chyna's waist, but as I recall, I don't think things end up too well with them.
No, I think Eddie eventually wants to see things his way, and that would lead to, as we know, more entertainment with those two in particular. But yes,
very entertaining pair. Yes,
they were very entertaining, and like you said, you can say what you want about Chyna's reign and all this other stuff, but they were always entertaining. And I mean, Eddie, like, this is where which we knew at this point, I think, but still, we know what Eddie would eventually, what level he would get to at WWE. But like, this was, I mean, this guy, of course, even going back to WCW, like, you just knew when he was on the screen, like, there was just a different feeling. Like, he just could always, his presence was just, I still think about it, I'm like, he had a presence, I think, unlike, you could probably put a handful of guys in there maybe that have that type of presence that he had, but like, even in stuff like this, it's always there, and it's just, my goodness, his charisma was just one of a kind. Not making RVD theme song jokes there, like, it just, he was something. So
what was around back in 1990, around back in 2000, excuse me, Radio WWF.
Oh yes, that's when I was.
How about that? Oh my God, we had a plug for Radio WWF. Apparently, they had this show, and wow. And this brings back some personal memories for you, for me. Yeah. Do you remember wrestling on the radio back in this time period?
Oh yeah.
Did you have any local? Because I had a local show. I did not have a local show, but there was a show on my radio on one of my local radio stations. Wednesday night main events with Les Thatcher. Of all people. Remember Les, the HWA guy? I think he's still tooling around on the Observer website, and a veteran indeed. He was a veteran back then. So they had the big they had like a big 2-hour show on Wednesday nights, and there used to be this weird show on Saturday nights like Wrestle Talk that came on like at midnight that I try to listen to as well. And I don't recall Radio WWF ever being on in my area, so
I never heard it.
I don't know if you had any wrestling radio shows in your area.
I know there was some. I want to say, oh man, there was a smaller promotion. I can't remember exactly what it was, but like, I remember it was on one of those stations that you probably didn't know existed, and you're fiddling around with the radio and you find it and you're like, wait a second, like, what are they talking about? And
well, see, now you don't really have wrestling on the radio anymore because we all have podcasts and things like that. Really nobody's on the radio anymore.
No. This is your wrestling radio. So 411 on wrestling, your new radio WWF. So
stay tuned for 40 minutes of nonstop rock.
That's right. Well, what about that? Why don't we just do our own radio WWF? Let's just call matches, and I think that'd be entertaining. Which, I mean, that's what people do now, anyways, on these watch-alongs and everything. But
yeah,
maybe we need to do more of this. Going. So
we'll talk to Ashish about that. See if he can.
Yeah,
there's some interest there.
I'm sure we can make that work. So, anyways, Radio WWF coming soon to a 411 on Wrestling podcast near you. Stephanie and Kurt, we get more of this. Stephanie admitting Kurt is a good kisser.
How about Janet in this segment?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I guess that's Stephanie's friend Janet backstage, and the question she asked is: Kurt a hunk or a hottie? Which I was not sure what the difference was, to be honest with you. I
assume there's
may
a
you
lot
know
of
more about it than I
similarities.
do.
Yeah.
Stephanie did confirm that Kerr's a good kisser, so there you have it.
Well, at least we all know. So
Well, that's good to know. I mean, I don't know if I don't know what the other opinions of the folks in wrestling would be on that issue.
well, I mean, listen, you've really got to have a long list of
Could
accolades
they ask Karen Jarrett possibly, or
to get into the WWE Hall of Fame, right? Like you need stuff on your resume, and I feel like good kisser probably
yeah?
qualifies you in some sense. So,
Well, I mean, Mick Foley always claimed to be a good kisser as well.
well, and he's in, he's another one.
He's in the
So
Hall of Fame, so there you have it.
yeah, it's an interesting group. So
Yeah, that was what made us Randy Savage's problem for a long time.
I don't know that we could get
If
to the
they
bottom
ask,
of that.
I don't know who we could ask about that. To be honest with you.
There's another episode. Well, I know there's someone we could ask whose face was plastered all over the A&E documentary that still to this day is one of. Speaking of which, hey, we're gonna have coming soon. We're gonna have the Dark Side of the Ring second half of the season. Not too long from now, right?
Yeah.
Probably what, a month? Less than a month? Somewhere
It's
in there. So yeah, we'll have those coming up here soon on the podcast. But then we get a nice recap here of everything going on with this Jerry Lawler and Tazz feud. Oh my! So
Jim Ross called the man a piece of garbage, which led to all this. Which, I mean, why is Jim Ross calling Tazz a piece of garbage anyway? That kind of started the whole thing. It's kind of a thing. I gotta tell you though, I mean, I enjoyed this for what it was. But we're from the area where you're
right.
pretty much meant to be a Jerry Lawler fan because he was pretty much God in the Tennessee and Kentucky area for a very long time. And even though he was he's in his 50s at this point, right?
Yeah.
Which these days being 50 is nothing. Back in 2000, it was a pretty big deal. So it was kind of shocking stuff. And yeah, Tazz did a pretty good job of being a dick in this whole feud. Yet, being the ECW fan that I was back in this time, I wondered, like, what the hell are they doing with Tazz?
Yeah.
And I still kind of wonder that here in 2021. What the hell are they doing with Tazz?
Yeah, I don't know what they were doing either.
It did start his announcing career. So,
well,
I mean,
it did.
Got that.
And I remember the only thing I remember from this was the candy jar for whatever reason, like where Tazz just breaks the build up, I guess, where he uses the candy jar to break it over.
There were just candy jars all over the place.
Yeah.
On WWE television at this point.
They were everywhere.
Somebody was a big mark for sugar.
Yeah. Well, it's I think the biggest thing in this match was Tazz's entrance, where he comes out with the.
Because JR had gotten his eye damaged in a backstage segment where Tazz commandeered the King's rental car and he spray painted it, and he had JR sit in the front seat. And he decides to hit the window there with a baseball bat. It's probably a baseball bat or something. He breaks the glass, and oh my God, Jim Ross covered in glass. He's like, my eye, like he's Terry Funk or something. It was a pretty good piece of business, man. I'm telling you, this was a sold out the Mid-South Coliseum, no doubt.
That's true. Like this was like this should have been a tar and feather match. Like they should have been like this. They should have went back to this. This was the match that was made for it, I think. But I mean, hey, at least the good guys come out on top, right? As Lawler gets the win here, and this one did not.
I can't believe they had JR call a match by himself because if it's 2021, you've had like two people come out to fill in for Lawler.
Yeah. Well, it's true.
You have had to have like Michael Cole or somebody come down because you can't have one person call a match for God's sakes. But
I think JR here in 2000 pulled off the biased commentator much better than Michael Cole did 11 years later or whenever it was when he had the heel Michael Cole. Oh God.
There were some pretty amazing spots here though. You saw the Lawler drop kick. You saw Tazz going for a swanton, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
You saw Tazz no-sell the pile driver. He said something bad. You saw Tay Long taking a bump. And then you saw Tazz choking out Jerry Lawler and yelling at JR. He's going to choke him out after he finishes with Lawler. So then, of course, JR comes over and hits Tazz with a candy jar. Cuts up his own hand. Oh. And JR's yelling about how Tazz can go to hell. So, good times. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, so this was, like you said, look, if this had been 10 minutes, we'd probably be like, oh my goodness, what's the deal here? But it went 4 minutes, so I thought it was
Meltzer
fine.
gave it a star and a fourth. What a crime. Come on. He gave that less than he gave the open. No, he gave less than he gave Eddie and Chyna versus Val and Trish, which I would have put over that.
Well,
It would have been close.
Maybe it's, again, Eddie's
I was
charisma.
gonna point to another match, but actually, for the first two matches, got lower ratings. So
Oh, that's what we said at the beginning. Like, this show starts off with a lot of interesting stuff, not necessarily great stuff, but it's just like, even the crowd was, that's what we just said, like Raleigh, the crowd was into this. I mean, it's 2000, it's August. Like, things are just, they're so hot right now.
it's hot.
I mean, it doesn't really matter what you put out there, knowing that, I mean, we said this about the Attitude Era. Like, everything you go back and watch now, like, some of that stuff is just not good, but the crowd loved it. And at the end of the day, that's really all that matters. So if you're doing good business and the crowd loves it, that's really what matters. So yeah, and like you said, this was fine, I thought, for what it was. Very short, but that leads us into the next one, where you've still got Shane basically trying to get away from Steve Blackman.
I don't know why Shane needed multiple interviewers throughout the night. Like, we had Coach talking to him first, and we had Lillian Garcia talking to him here. I guess everybody wanted to get that scoop from Shane McMahon.
Yeah, I think so. Shane was everywhere, but who knew that 20 years later, Shane would still be a staple in these matches. So, but this was, I mean, I thought this was pretty good. Like, this is one of those where, like, you don't really remember it until you go back and watch it. But how many matches, and I can look this up, but did they have more than one match, Shane and Blackman? Because I feel like any time, or maybe this was the only one, and I was just thinking, oh, well, I remember it being good, but I feel like, did they have another one somewhere? Because I was thinking, then the chemistry was usually pretty good between these two, but I don't remember exactly how long this feud lasted.
They showed where it started, where apparently Shane Blackman had a match on Raw. I think it was one of those gimmicks where Foley was punishing Shane or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But eventually what happened was, well, first and Test and Albert came out, and they didn't work, so Edge and Christian came out, and they helped Shane beat Blackman for the title. And so then Mick Foley decides they're going to suspend the 24/7 rule just to make sure that Shane would have to have this match. Which is good, because, otherwise, if you still had 24/7 rule, Shane could just had somebody beat him.
Well, this was when the hardcore title was enjoyable. When the 24/7 concept was enjoyable, which I don't know. It's got a little differently in the second go around in WWE, but I thought this was good. Like, I enjoyed it. And I think Steve Blackman's one of those, we haven't really talked about him a ton, but you go back, like, if you pick your spots with Blackman, if you put him in there in the right scenario, like, he usually delivered some pretty good stuff. I can't say he was the most charismatic person in the world, but still.
He had some weird charismatic moments, like, not so much like during the interviews, like during the matches, he would yell like something like, "This is my house."
Right.
Or when he got out the sticks, he'd yell, "It's party time," and it's fun, and he'd hit Shane with the sticks and whatnot. And he had TNA, good old Test and Albert, come down to help Shane again, and Blackman eventually fights up back from that. And I don't know why, but Shane McMahon decides that the best way to escape Steve Blackman is to start climbing up the entrance. Maybe he's afraid of heights. Maybe thinks Blackman's afraid of heights.
I mean, Shane would have a lot more to come in terms of the bumps he would be taking, because, yeah, as we know, I mean, this was one of those where, like, they've showed this on a lot of stuff, like all their video packages and stuff. I feel like,
yeah.
I
don't think it was 75 feet, but it's pretty high up.
Yeah, I don't think it was 75 feet either, but it was pretty good length, and this was one you saw a lot. And as we said, like, this was the era where Shane's taking these bumps, and of course we remember the King of the Ring match with Angle and all this other stuff. Like, it's just, yeah, Shane had a lot. At the Big Show, like, didn't Shane take a big bump with that match against Big Show? Was that?
I think Shane jumped off the high place onto Big Show.
Was that Backlash 2000? Maybe
one of those. It was a Backlash. I forget which one, but yeah, I think Shane jumps off a high spot with an elbow to beat Big Show. Is that what I think happened there?
There you go. Backlash 2001, last man standing match, Shane and Big Show. Yeah.
In this instance, it was Shane falling off a high place, and Blackman is at least smart enough to climb down a little bit before he does the elbow drop and lands on him.
Right.
So smart guy there. And I will also say that the crash pad here, which obviously there was a crash pad, it doesn't look as bad as like that. We all made fun of that AEW crash pad recently with Chris Jericho and how it looked pretty bad. But this one doesn't look so bad, mostly because of how bad it looks. Like, it just looks like they threw like whatever they could find under there. So it just kind of looks like a big old mess, pretty much. So you don't see like the big pieces of foam sticking out. It's just like, just look garbage, pretty much. So, because it looks bad, it looks better.
Well,
that makes sense, right?
Yeah, that makes complete sense. No, this was good stuff. I thought this was the best thing on the show thus far. Just with, it went about 10 minutes. Blackman wins. You get that big sort of moment with Shane there going down onto the crash pad. And, this was fun. I thought it was really good stuff. And this, as we always say, play to the strengths. And I thought this played to the strengths of Blackman. And you certainly got more out of Shane. And we know kind of what he's capable of at this point in his career. And, yeah, this was good. So,
well, and of course, since Shane is dead now, we go back to Stephanie, and Stephanie she's understandably very worried about her brother here. And Kurt Angle walks in, and Kurt says, "Oh, Shane's he was moving, he's all right." Kurt didn't seem as concerned about this, but he does give Stephanie a hug. And when you know it, that's right when Mick Foley walks in. How about that? Shocking.
Yeah, shocking.
And then Foley with the line, he says that Shane landed right on his kisser. So they should go check on him. He and Stephanie go check on him.
Yeah, the tension.
Right on the kisser.
The tension continues, right? Between these two, between Stephanie McMahon and noted good kisser, Kurt Angle. Then we get to, this is where things picked up with Shane and Blackman, but this is where it's like you put your foot on the gas and you only let up for a couple things later on. But things get really good here as we go into the build, and we kind of look at everything that led to this 2 out of 3 falls match with Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit. This is where, Benoit had been basically going after Jericho, going after the ribs, all this other stuff. And, this, what do you say, right? Like we could insert any show that these two pretty much ever wrestled on for the most part. And, I mean, you know what you're getting here. This was just good stuff. Just you're getting your technical wrestling, just back and forth. Unbelievably stiff at times where these two are just taking it to each other. And this was a Chris Jericho versus Chris Benoit match. And this was fantastic.
I wasn't quite sure. The one thing that bugged me, which is a small thing, but right after Benoit wins the first fall, they start playing his music for like 5 seconds.
I did notice that. I feel like that's one of
those.
They
did the same thing for Jericho too. Once Jericho won the second fall, he plays music for like 5 seconds. So I don't know if they really needed to do that, unless they just weren't sure that people knew that the fall was over. Or...
Right. Yeah.
Because I don't remember Ric Flair's music playing when he beat Ricky Steamboat in the first fall in 1989. I don't remember that happening.
I think music was a little bit different back then, anyways. Entrance themes, but still.
It's probably a little. Yeah, it was a little more complicated back in that day, but. But that cheater Chris Benoit, he had to use the ropes here to beat Jericho. I mean, what kind of honorable man has to use ropes? But yeah, this is a pretty darn good match, as you would expect. Pretty much exactly what you expect from these guys. They had some better ones. I think that everybody would cite the ladder match at Royal Rumble. Was it 2001?
Yeah, coming up in several months from here.
They'd probably cite that one as the best. And this one wasn't quite that good, but perfectly fine pro wrestling.
Yep. Went about 13 minutes, as you said. Benoit cheats to win, and this is for 13 minutes like this flew by. It was a breeze, but that's what you get with these two, and it was really good. And like you said, I would still rank the ladder match at the Rumble ahead of this one, and but this was still good stuff for sure. So Triple H is finally here. The show
thanks for showing up.
Show's been going on a while, but Triple H has arrived, and of course, even more. We have to make sure we get in everything so everyone knows every little detail, which I'm fine with. Hammer it home as much as you need to.
I will say that Kurt's Stephanie kiss was replayed more times than anything I can remember in recent memory on any show.
It was everywhere.
And I see a lot. WWE made a habit out of replaying everything on their show for years, and that still kind of pales in comparison to what we saw here.
I was gonna say, I think it's always funny sometimes, like which I understand. I mean, look, you're trying to get the viewer that,
especially when it's 3 hours long, you gotta replay it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like sometimes they would do it like immediately after, and they show it again. But when you have a 3 hour Raw and stuff, I get it. People are probably tuning in and out, which the ratings suggest, but. I get why you have to replay it a lot, but this was everywhere. So speaking of everywhere, there were bodies everywhere in this next match, which was the TLC match between Edge and Christian, the Hardy Boys, and the Dudley Boys, and this is for the WWF Tag Team Championships. And Steve, we've kind of talk this one up here, knowing we were going to get to SummerSlam 2000, and going back and watching this, just a spectacle. I mean, it's, as we knew, anytime you put tables, ladders, or chairs around these three, usually works out fine. Maybe not from a body standpoint for those guys in particular, but this was just, I mean, what do you say, right? Like, this was just another one that goes about 20 minutes. There's just stuff flying everywhere, bodies all over the place, and Edge and Christian, as they seemingly did in a lot of these scenarios, come out on top here in this big triple threat TLC match.
Well, when we did the top 7 SummerSlam matches a little while back, this was at number 2, I believe. So, yeah, it's pretty fun. And I'm one of those people who I've been one of those guys who says I don't want to see a ladder match ever again. TLC at this point, it doesn't do it for me as much as it used to, but when you see the early ones hold up so well because these guys kind of knew how to work it. They would do stuff that would it didn't seem as contrived as it does these days.
Yeah.
Like most of these ladder matches, most of these TLC matches these days, everything seems a little contrived. It seems like they're, setting up things that it just doesn't quite jibe as well as it did back in the day here with these guys. It's just, some people just have a knack for it, and these guys did. And I am amazed that 4 out of 6 of them are on national television now in 2021. It's amazing.
That is a very good
point.
I
mean, some of them took some time off, but they're still cooking. They're still here. One of them's the Impact champion, for God's sake.
One of them is the Impact champion, and one of them had a main event Universal title match at the most recent WrestleMania.
Well, he was a jobber in that match, let's be honest.
Well, he got, double pin by the head of the table. That's what you get sometimes. So,
and poor Edge, you got to feel for a guy, because I'm sure Edge probably thought he's going to be like the World Universal Champion by this point, and his little buddy Christian gets title instead. How about that? It's funny how life works sometimes.
Well, yeah, it is. I don't think a lot of us expected Christian to be the Impact champion in 2021, but we also probably didn't expect what AEW is going to do on, as we're taping this, in a couple of days at Rampage, the first dance with CM Punk. So,
well, when Daniel Garcia stands tall at the end of that show, y'all are going to be shocked, but I'm not going to be shocked.
That's right. Daniel Garcia, the next big thing. He's something. So
I think Daniel Bryan. I think Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan. That could be a match there.
Oh yeah,
I can see Garcia. I bet Bryan sees that guy. He's like, oh, I could do something with that guy.
They'll do that at some point. And speaking of CM Punk and Daniel Bryan, if you want to go back and listen to our SummerSlam 2013 review, which was done a couple weeks ago, cheap plug. We did that and looked at those 2 matches.
They were on that show. Yes.
They were on that show when they had 2 big matches. But this TLC match, you can watch it at any time in any era. It's always going to hold up, I think. Just a terrific match from top to bottom. I would assume, Steve, I'd have to look this up, but I would assume this was probably a top 3 match in WWE in 2000. Surely, right? Like I'm trying to think of anything else off the top of my head, but
if I remember the list from around that time, I think it was at or near the top.
Which I assume you had like the Triple H Cactus matches. I assume the Street Fight's probably up there pretty high. Again, there's probably a lot more. Fully Loaded 2000.
It was a good year for WWF Wrestling in 2000.
Yeah, wasn't Fully Loaded 2000? Was that the show that...
Yeah. It had Rock and Benoit and Triple H and Jericho and Angle and Undertaker.
Yeah, so there was like you said earlier, there's a lot of good stuff in this year. But I would safely assume, without looking it up, this TLC match was right up there near the top. If we're just talking, the landscape in WWE or WWF, I don't recall WCW having anything in 2000 that would match this. So I could be wrong though. I'm happy if someone wants to find some evidence of that. But this was great stuff. And, we're back to the main event here, feud, as Triple H wants to know what's going on. And with Stephanie, she blames Angle, and kind of a weird dynamic there, because they're just now talking about this whole thing, or what?
I put in my notes, I don't know why they couldn't have this conversation sometime between Thursday and Sunday.
Well, I mean, Triple H, I mean, I want to know why the guy was so late to the show. That's what I want to know. But
Yeah, what was he up to?
I don't know.
I mean, we're accusing Stephanie of infidelity here and whatnot. What exactly is Triple H up to?
Maybe North Carolina, right? Maybe he's with Flair. Maybe he's styling and profiling Ric Flair. And
Rick were hanging out?
You never know. So
what the hell? I'm trying to think what the hell Rick was doing at this point in 2000. Was he on vacation?
Oh, God, who knows? Probably trying to...
Was he doing the feud with David and Russo and all that unmitigated bullshit?
You have piqued my interest because I am very interested to see what Ric Flair was doing at this time in 2000.
Oh, boy, the future... There's a future podcast, Ric Flair in 2000.
Well, this is going to put a quick halt because I've got to know this because you have just really got my interest going here. I'm not sure exactly what he was doing, but I want to say this was around that time in 2000 where he's doing a lot of stuff in WCW.
Yeah, they were doing a lot of stuff in WCW at that point. Not a lot of it was good, but they're doing a lot of stuff. I think this would have been, I want to say it was probably during the Flair and Russo feud, and I don't know on the dates, but I think it would have been around the time where Flair loses to Russo in the tag match and gets his head shaved and takes some time off.
Well, Flair did win the WCW title twice in 2000, so I'm not sure exactly.
I remember one time was because Flair won the title, and then he had an inner ear problem or something, which led to him passing out after a match or something, which led to him being stripped of the title, which led to Kevin Nash winning the title, which led to Kevin Nash giving the title to Ric Flair.
Here you go. I found this. I had to look this up. So
oh my god, yeah, that was something that happened. So what we got?
All right. So in 2000, his last match in 2000, on June the 5th, 2000, on Nitro, Vince Russo defeats Ric Flair, still cage match in Atlanta. On June,
the last Battle of Atlanta. I remember that.
Yes, June the 11th. At Great American Bash, Ric Flair defeats David Flair in a retirement match in Baltimore. And then, the next night on Nitro, in another retirement match, David Flair and Vince Russo defeat Ric and Reed Flair on Nitro.
David's retirement didn't last very long.
No. So, boy, that's something. And then Flair didn't wrestle again until the March 5th, 2001 edition of Nitro. So I guess he was on hiatus at this point.
So there you go. Triple H is hanging out with Ric Flair.
That's it. We just solved the mystery right there in that. But
speaking of classic feud, speaking of classic wrestling, much akin to what Ric Flair is involved with at that point, we have the Cat. She's out there with Al Snow for reasons that I don't know. Nobody knows why. The announcers didn't know either. We don't know why Al Snow is there. She's facing Terri. And Terri comes out, and she strips down to her, her bikini and whatnot. And yeah, she's with Perry Saturn, who comes out and decides he's going to cover up Terri with the robe or with the jacket or whatever. So I don't know why Saturn. I don't know what Saturn was thinking. I don't know what anybody was thinking, honestly. I can tell you that this was a Stinkface match.
You are correct.
Because there was an incident where Rikishi gave Terri the Stinkface. At the behest of the Cat, which of course led to Terri attacking the Cat, WWF New York, and giving her a stink face.
Yeah.
So now we've got it's not just a stink face match; it is a thong stink face match. In case you're wondering. So I don't know why Saturn is so upset about the skin stuff because it's a thong stink face match. What do you want?
Yeah. We talked about TNA showed up earlier in the show. Well, this was
Albert, not.
Yeah, this was your actual
version
of that.
Total non-stop action.
This was that. So
there's some cat fighting involved. There was a cat smacking the ass and riding the Bronco, if you will.
This is one of those matches we teased the us on commentary earlier, but this is one we probably should have been on commentary for. Maybe we need to go back and add this to our list of. We'll do our own video commentary DVDs. You think we could release those and
songs? I'm sure WWE would be very happy with that. Yeah, I'm sure they'd be okay with
that. I don't think they're replaying this one in the Road to SummerSlam 2021 as a classic moment, but probably a lot of people.
You had them going for covers, which I don't know why anybody's going for covers in this match, but that's what they were doing.
A lot of people probably remember this one for different reasons, but. Not for the wrestling. to say the least, as it was the cat getting the win in
The
this.
cat got the win, by the way, but
3 minutes.
she used Al Snow's head to get the win there.
Yeah, well, there's another. Oh, this is, what a match.
And the celebration had Al putting Cat up on his shoulders, and then Al turned Cat around on his shoulders, so you got a face full of Cat.
Yeah. There's no easy way to transition.
Meltzer gave us a dud, unfortunately.
I could see that.
I thought he might go a little bit higher on that one. I don't know, but Cat and Terri were never exactly confused with ring generals. Let's just say that they had their contributions. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, that was
Nice girls.
Well, you talk about duds. WWF New York was next up. The APA or WWF New York, and there's another thing. WWF New York was an interesting experiment, I guess. Always fascinates me. I feel like there should be a documentary on that. I'd like to know everything behind that. But
how would they spin that one?
Yeah, it's we're gonna find out a lot. A lot of spinning's already been done, but we talk about some of these. They can't blame
Giuliani because they're friends with Giuliani, so that's not gonna work.
The spin is good on some of these upcoming documentaries they're gonna have. So who knows?
Did you send your cable bill to get your Rock sunglasses?
I did not. Actually, you know what? I probably did. I'm not gonna lie. Now that I think about it, I probably did because I love those Rock sunglasses. I probably did. But I don't even remember getting them. I honestly don't know. But
I could see him doing that.
I was all in on that kind of stuff. So
why did they want your cable bill? That seemed a little fishy to me. Like why do they want to know what I'm watching on my cable? I might have some other pay-per-views on there. They don't need to know about that.
That's true.
I'm sure a lot of parents are probably, oh my gosh, you imagine the kids asking the parents for their cable bill. And Dad's like, no, son, I don't think you need to see that.
You know what, little Timmy? Actually, we can't send this because, sorry, not going to work.
Yeah, because once little Timmy sees that cable bill, he's going to ask some questions.
Timmy may have had questions about the next match, which was Kane and the Undertaker part. I don't even know what at this point. But this was...
It's an interesting era for Kane and Undertaker, too, because Undertaker is full in American badass mode at this point.
So different. Like, it doesn't really feel like Kane and the Undertaker. Like, it just...
And they had the video before a match where Kane turns on the Undertaker and choke slams him through a ring. And they didn't really adequately explain this. Kane did say that he did because he's a monster.
Yeah.
I don't know what that has to do with anything, but...
Well, it's what you can do when you're a monster, I guess. But...
Kane's just going to do anything and he's going to say, I did because I'm a monster?
Well, he set JR on fire. He does it because he's a monster. So...
Well, that's a cop-out. Why can't this guy have reasons for doing anything?
Yeah, well...
That's not going to hold up in a court of law.
That's probably true. This has always been the common thing, right? Like, when you talk about chemistry, Kane and the Undertaker as opponents, just, they didn't have a lot of great matches.
No, they didn't. I mean, their strengths and their weaknesses were largely the same, so they couldn't really cover up each other's weaknesses. And this was a weird one because Undertaker was working that lucha style, and Undertaker decided he's going to go for Kane's mask. He's ripping at this mask, keeps going after it like he's working Arena Mexico. I'm not quite sure what that's about. And it wasn't, nobody explained this, of course, because nobody knows. And this goes on for a while, and eventually the mask comes off, and Kane just backs away from the ring, and they play Undertaker's music, and the match never started, so nobody won, nobody lost.
This was a no DQ match, right? Like, am I wrong about this?
I don't know. They didn't ring a bell.
Wow. I'm just thinking.
There was no bell rung, so there was no winner, no loser. Just the match never happened. Well, it happened. It's out there. We had to sit through it. We watch these two brawl around, and Undertaker going for the mask like he's Dr. Wagner Jr. or something. I don't know what the hell.
Wagner Jr.
I don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah. This
is not one of your better Undertaker Kane matches, which, as we said, there weren't a lot of great Undertaker Kane matches, but this was probably near the bottom of the list.
Well, and as we know, and
I am not ranking Undertaker Kane matches before anybody comes up with that idea. That's not happening.
I probably couldn't name more than 2 or 3, I guess, but beyond that, I'm not really sure. So, did Undertaker and Isaac Yankem, did they ever Surely they cross
Undertaker,
paths.
I don't know if Undertaker. Well, I remember that the first match they would have had would have been Smoky Mountain Wrestling when Undertaker wrestled Unabomb at one
Yeah,
of
that's
the
true.
big shows they had there, and that's how they went. That's how they discovered Mr. Yankum.
Yeah, that's true. Mr. Yankum.
Oh,
There's
Dr. Yankum, my bad.
there's another cheap plug. We got another one there. SummerSlam '95, our most recent retro review. Go back and listen to that one if you want.
Kane not exactly in the running for Mr. SummerSlam so far here. Unless you can think of some great Kane matches from later in SummerSlam history.
I think I would rather go back and you and I just to watch Smoky Mountain Wrestling than have to go back and watch a lot of these Kane Undertaker matches at times. But these two would be paired up again, as we know, down the road, as they would fight the two-man power trip to come.
If somebody interviews Undertaker one of these days, they could ask him why he went for Kane's mask at SummerSlam 2000.
Well, that leads us into our main event. Of course, going into it, Kurt Angle's on the phone. Stephanie, Triple H are trying to. We've got Linda.
Who makes a phone call? You can tell this show's dated because Kurt's actually making a phone call.
A lot's going on here.
Like who talks on the phone now? Well, no. Well, we have to mention that Steph said that it was Mom.
Oh yeah, so Linda.
And Mom, yeah, it was actually Mom. Yeah, she acts like she's talking to Linda, and Triple H wants the phone, and for some reason Stephanie actually gives the phone to Triple H. And then Triple H like, oh, your mom hung up on me, which I wouldn't blame her anyway.
Yeah.
I don't think Linda wasn't a big Hunter fan in 2000, from what I remember.
No, and yeah, things would.
So like it's shocking. Like Triple H seems shocked that she would hang up on him. Like,
as we know too, things would get interesting for Linda several months later, leading into WrestleMania 17. But
yeah, that was.
Well, this does bring us to our triple threat match: Kurt Angle, Triple H, The Rock for the WWF title. And I mean, on paper, like I think we all expected this to be good stuff. I mean, you knew when you had these three in there. The dynamic, this was not a 5-star match or anything, but it was entertaining. Of course, the one thing, we all remember from this.
The one big thing is Kurt Angle bouncing off his head and getting a concussion. Yeah.
Angle has talked about this a lot over the years, I guess, which I think he's done this one on his podcast. I remember him saying the different things about it, just not really knowing, what was going on. And it's one of those things where it's like, you think back to that and you're like, man, we know like during this era and guys working through injuries and stuff, but my goodness.
No, they couldn't do this now. No, if this would not happen here in 2000, they would not drag Kurt Angle back down to the ring to make sure they do the finish. That would not happen these days. So they have to come up with something new, which would be crazy. But I enjoyed it. I mean, Kurt comes down first, of course, and he gets on the microphone. And he apologizes. People want him to apologize. So he apologizes for not kissing Stephanie a heck of a lot sooner. Love it. He's a giver, for God's sakes. And, runs down Triple H. And Triple H runs down, and they start fighting. And you know damn well Rock's going to take his sweet time getting there.
Oh, yeah.
Rock is in no rush to get down there, I don't think. I had to note JR saying that Kurt Angle has carnal intentions for Stephanie.
Carnal
intentions. Oh, love it. Which, of course, leads up to the table breaking on pedigree and Angle bouncing his head off the thing. And the famous soundbite, he don't have a damn clue where he is, which was replayed for years on the Please Do Not Try This at Home thing there, along with the rest of this whole segment with Kurt Angle, that poor bastard. So, but yeah, Rock does have to come down at this point because, Kurt Angle can't do anything. So, and then they do the main event style where they brawl around the entrance and whatnot. It's a good time. And, a lot of good stuff with Rock and Triple H. They had some good chemistry, I think. Those were two pretty good wrestlers at this point, and people were into it. And wouldn't you believe it, we cut backstage, and, I'm skipping something because we don't cut backstage because Stephanie just wanders down. Even though Triple H didn't ask her to, she wanders down to the ring, and, Triple H is mad at first. And then he's like, get me the belt. It's like, dude, make up your mind. You either want her there or you don't. Like, we're not... I don't know. These things bug me. And, of course, Stephanie gets the belt. She gets in the ring, and when you know, she hit Triple H the belt. How about that?
Look at that.
Huh. Foisted by your own canard. So, Sergeant Slaughter escorted her out of there, which is nice to see Sergeant Slaughter out there. So then, while Rock and Triple H are still wrestling, this is where Stephanie wants the concussed Kurt Angle to go out there and help Triple H. Well, I don't know why Stephanie thought that was going to happen, but Kurt Angle says, I'll do anything for you, Stephanie. And so Stephanie drags him out there, and when you know it, Kurt Angle does not help Triple H.
Not at all.
When you know it, when you know who won the pony there. Oh,
Kurt Angle, good kisser, not a great fan of Triple H.
no.
So
So some more shenanigans, which lead to Stephanie getting laid out by Triple H, of course. You get Rock pitting Triple H, and the whole thing ends with Kurt Angle carrying Stephanie McMahon out of the building like a true hero, a friend to society that Kurt Angle is. And we play Kurt Angle's music, even though he did not win the match. He has won the hearts of America, obviously.
Yep. Well, yeah, The Rock retains here, and it's like, I mean, it turns into one of those with the Angle thing and all that. Like, it was, you're basically Rock and Triple H for the most part here, and a good match. I don't think you put it in the great category, but good. And as we said, if you've got these three involved, it's rarely going to be worse than good. So. Yeah, so this was...
There was a downside. There's a reason the match probably didn't get to the heights it could have, because you were missing one of the competitors, which not really something they can control too much.
No. And that was SummerSlam 2000. Eventually, as we know, Triple H and Angle would continue their thing. They'd have the match at Unforgiven.
Yeah.
Triple H, of course.
A very interesting turn of events there.
Yeah.
A lot of people thought at that time that possibly the smart thing to do, since Kurt was heel and Triple H is kind of trending towards being a babyface, everybody thought at that point, the smart thing to do would be to have Stephanie turn on her husband and join up with Kurt Angle, which would lead to more things with Kurt and Triple H and Stephanie and whatnot, and which we saw playing Stephanie and Triple H feuding later on. But at this time, it was decided that no, Triple H did not want to break up with Stephanie because, well, there were things going on backstage, folks. There were some backstage shenanigans going on between Triple H and Stephanie McMahon that would lead to certain things happening that would lead to the state of WWE in 2021, pretty much.
Yeah, well, I guess if we still include Triple H in that.
Well, he's involved.
Oh boy!
Well, there's a lot there. Oh boy!
That's a whole other podcast right there.
Leads to a lot of things. It's a very interesting time in wrestling, and you wonder if certain things. What if Stephanie had turned and joined Kurt Angle at that point? So would that have shifted things? Where would Triple H be now? He'd probably be in AEW.
He'd be in Raleigh with Ric Flair doing the same thing he was doing before the show. So
there you go.
that would be it. But yes, that was SummerSlam 2000, a very entertaining show.
We have to do the poll. We got to do the poll. We had the poll via E-Yada, by the way. Shout out to E-Yada. I don't know what they're up to these days, but Meltzer had the polls, and he was doing them via E-Yada at this point. So they had the question of, what did you think of SummerSlam? Thumbs up got 79%.
Yeah. Thumbs
down got 2%. Thumbs in the middle got 5%. And then 14% didn't see a show.
Wow.
So they were WWE fans. The other question here that is kind of pertinent to this: if you were in charge, who would you have picked to win the SummerSlam main event? Now, The Rock gets 32.1%, Kurt Angle gets 14.4%, and Kurt Angle gets 53.5%. Which this kind of jives to what I remember. There are a lot of people are Kurt Angle fans back during this time period.
Yeah, he was on a roll. I mean, we know 2000 was a huge...
And I probably would have gone Kurt Angle too.
Yeah.
I think I probably would have said, yeah, put over Kurt. Why not?
Well, and that was SummerSlam 2000. Steve, as we know, we've got SummerSlam coming up this weekend, and should be an interesting show. But anything you would like to plug before we wrap up this episode?
Oh, there's a lot of stuff going on as usual. We got I know there's a new column of botches that'll be coming pretty soon, so you can check that out. We'll have a new top 7 pretty soon, and if you're heading to SummerSlam weekend, if you're thinking about gambling on the SummerSlam matches, you can always go to thechairshot.com, where I will have my SummerSlam gambling picks.
Good luck. Yes, check out all of our SummerSlam coverage. We said Jeffrey Harris will be there covering it, and we'll have everything covered over at 41mania.com. So we'll have that. Be sure to subscribe, and as always, we'll have the link to the GoFundMe for Larry Zonker's family in the show notes. So continue to share and contribute to that. Thanks for listening to this episode of the podcast, and we'll talk to you next time here on the 411 on Wrestling Podcast.